Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Cuz You Don't Know Football. Well, guys, we back at it. Let's get it then. You see what I'm saying? So, right now, I just want y'all to know we are filming while the Cleveland Browns and the Denver Broncos are playing. Now, just for everybody to know, if the Browns win this game, that means the Broncos and my Colts are tied for that 7 seed in the AFC playoff game. So, we'll see how this go. You know what I mean? But if I'm gonna talk to Denver fans and JB, you one of them people, don't let this happen. If you can stop it, don't let this happen. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. Okay, guys, we got week 13 in the books. Well, not in the books because of course, like I just said, there's a game going on. But we're gonna film through this because time is time. You know what I mean? So let's just jump into some games. So the Bears and Lions had a game on Thanksgiving. So I'm not sure. So actually, I was curious about something. Would last week's episode be the Thanksgiving episode, or is this the Thanksgiving episode? Because this is the games after, or this is the episode after the Thanksgiving games were played. I'm not sure, but we here now. Let's get into some player stats. So Detroit won 23-30 or 23-20. Caleb Williams, he was 20 of 39 for 256 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Not much on the ground. I'm not even going to mention that. DJ Moore had 8 receptions for 97 yards and a touchdown. Keenan Allen had 5 receptions for 73 yards and 2 touchdowns. And for the winning team, the Detroit Lions, Jared Goff, he was 21 to 34 for 221 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. David Montgomery, he had 21 carries for 88 yards. There was no rushing touchdowns. And they were led with Amon St. Brown with 5 receptions for 73 yards. Oh, and Sam Laporte actually had 3 receptions for 6 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's a crazy stat line. Um, so this game ended with some controversy. So I don't know if you guys saw this, but um, the Chicago Bears, Matt Eberflus. Matt Eberflus is the Chicago Bears head coach, where he was the Chicago Bears head coach. He was let go over the weekend. Um, so let me just break down the end of that game. So at the end of the game, Caleb Williams takes a sack, and it's 23-20, but they're driving. So they're almost in field goal range, but then they take a sack. And then Caleb Williams, yeah, he takes a sack, and then they don't call a timeout. They have a timeout. The Chicago Bears have a timeout. They don't use the timeout. And then they run another play with about like 5 seconds left, and it was an incomplete pass, and that was the end of the game. It was poor management of that timeout. It was poor management of the team. And I told y'all at in the summertime, I told y'all if Caleb Williams is not having a all-star season, Matt Eberflus is the reason why. And he just got let go. So I totally understand all of that. The only sad part is this is kind of the cycle that the Bears have gone through trying to get a franchise quarterback. The last franchise quarterback they had was probably Jim McMahon. That was legitimately at least a good quarterback. And they've gone through the last 3 quarterbacks where they drafted them in the first round. I'm talking about Mitchell Trubisky, I'm talking about Justin Fields, and now I'm talking about Caleb Williams. They drafted a quarterback in the top 5 picks. They had the coach, then they fired the coach, and it negatively affected the quarterback's career. Caleb Williams might be a little different than everybody else, but right now, I feel real bad about what this means for his career because I think he's a real talent, and I just want to see who they bring in. Season is done for. Anytime you see a head coach fired, that signals the end of the season for that team. Just for anybody who doesn't know that. But we want to see who the Chicago Bears bring in as their next head coach. Chicago, Hey man, they just keep trucking along, and that's 10 straight. If you the crazy thing is they was 1-1. That means that they was 1-1 at one point, and then they just ran off 10 straight wins. And like I said, this is the first time this has happened for Chicago Bears since 1934. I want to say the year. So, don't worry, I wasn't there either. None of us were there. Just something to remember. Um, the Packers officially ended the Dolphins season, and they eliminated them from playoff contention. Tua was 37 to 46 for 365 yards, two touchdowns, no picks. They literally had 19 yards rushing. Their leading rusher had 19 yards. See, this is why when I don't bring up rushing attempts, is it'll be something like that. It'll be like 30 yards or 19 yards, and I'm like, I'm not talking about that. That's why I don't say anything. John Smith had 10 receptions for 113 yards, no touchdowns. Tyreek Hill had 6 receptions for 83 yards and a touchdown. And Devon Anche, he had 56 yards receiving and a touchdown. Jordan Love was 21 to 28, 274 yards, two touchdowns, no picks. Josh Jacobs, he had 43 yards rushing, which really ain't nothing, but he also had one rushing touchdown. And Tucker Kraft led them in receiving with 6 receptions for 78 yards. But Jaden Reed had he had 3 receptions for 24 yards, and two of them were touchdowns. That's also a crazy stat line. Um, let's go back to Jordan Love. 21 to 28, 274 yards, two touchdowns, no picks. Jordan Love, listen to me. Jordan Love, Jalen Hurts, and Lamar Jackson are pretty much the same guy. You don't want to throw for too many yards or too many attempts, excuse me. You want to throw for too many attempts with them. You get them between 20. If we get in the 30, that's not great. But sub 30, above 20, that's how many attempts that you want to give these guys. And they usually overperform in those scenarios. So I really like Jordan Love when he's not asked to be the guy that just has to carry things, because in that scenario, he starts to carry things. I know, surprise, surprise. You take pressure off of your guy, and he starts to overperform. But very big fan of that. I'm very interested in the Green Bay Packers. As I said, I expect them to be a playoff team. I'm expecting to see who they play in the first round, because I really want to know how they favor against a team that's going to be a top four seed. You know, but you're probably looking at the number five seed in the playoffs, 5 or 6 seed. I'm not sure because their division is crazy. They might be the number 6 seed, to be honest with you. Um, just filling you guys in. On that Broncos Browns game, the Browns look like they just scored a touchdown. And now they're up 32-31 on the Denver Broncos. That's gonna be crazy if they win that game. I'm telling you guys right now, that's gonna be crazy. All right, stay focused. Um, the Chiefs beat the Raiders. Let's just go over that a little bit because we haven't really gone through a lot of Chiefs games just because they've been ahead of everybody. Aiden O'Connell, he was 23 of 35 for 340 yards, two touchdowns, no picks. Sincere McCormick, he had 12 carries for 64 yards. They had no touchdowns on the ground. And Brock Bowers had a very good game, 10 receptions for 140 yards, one touchdown. And Trey Tucker, he had one reception for 58 yards, and that was a touchdown. Good for Trey. Patrick Mahomes, he was 26 of 46 for 306 yards, one touchdown, no picks. Isaiah Pacheco returned from his broken leg. He had 7 carries for 44 yards. DeAndre Hopkins had 4 receptions for 90 yards. Travis Kelsey had 7 receptions for 68 yards. When I was listening to the analysts and what they had to say about the Chiefs, but the one thing that I heard that stuck out to me was the Chiefs keep winning these little games. Like they were saying that the Chiefs are the third best team in the AFC because the Steelers have shown what they have, and the Bills are closing the door on people. And for everything that I'm seeing, yes, you're right. The Chiefs have won a lot of one score games. But for a team that's 11-1, usually they're blowing everybody out and they get complacent. Whoa, this team can't be complacent. And I think they know that. I think people are going to keep poking the bear until they start attacking people. And I think we may not see it until the playoffs, but as I told you, I'm telling you they're going back to the Super Bowl. So all these teams that are looking better than them right now, this is just a regular season. They're gonna be in the playoffs, and you're gonna have to go to Arrowhead, and you're gonna have to see what time it is with them. Even if it's on the road, they've shown I'll go on the road and I'll beat you there too. Until further notice, until I'm shown that they're a team that can be beat, they're gonna win. Relax, they're gonna win. They're gonna do this, okay? Okay, so we can go into my Colts too. So my Colts squeaked out a win against the New England Patriots. Now they said that was the first time we beat the Patriots in Foxborough in like 10 years. I hate when they try to make these stats that the Patriots was just so much better than us when when we had Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck and everything. I hate when they try to act like the Patriots was just dominant against us. But whatever, they can keep that. They can keep that narrative, whatever. Drake May, he was 24 of 30 for 238 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Ramondre Stevenson, he had 18 carries for 73 yards, no touchdowns. But Antonio Gibson had 7 carries for 62 yards, and he had a touchdown. Um, Hunter Henry led them with 7 receptions for 75 yards, no touchdowns. But Austin Hooper had 42 yards, but he had a touchdown. Anthony Richardson had 12 carries. Oh, 12 carries. Anthony Richardson had he was 12 of 24 for 109 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 picks. Jonathan Taylor had 25 carries for 96 yards, no touchdowns, and Anthony Richardson also had a rushing touchdown too. On about 48 yards rushing, so it's about 50 yards. Fair enough. Michael Pittman had 5 receptions for 42 yards. Net lettuce in receiving. Alec Pierce had 2 receptions for 16 yards and 1 touchdown, and Jonathan Taylor had 1 reception for 7 yards and a touchdown. Um, am I happy that we beat the Patriots? Yes, I am. Am I looking at this and I'm saying, um, am I looking at this and I'm saying this is impressive? No. To be honest with you, the New England Patriots controlled this game. We squeaked out this we squeaked out this win, and even if the Patriots had like probably 5 or 10 more seconds, we probably were talking about a different result, and we probably lose this game. Um, Anthony Richardson, 109 yards passing, that's just not going to cut it. It's just not going to cut it. You know what I mean? Um, it's just hard. It's just hard for me because a lot of people call me and tell me about Anthony Richardson and what he is and what he's going to do and the talent that he has. And my thought is still, I think he should have sat. I think he should have sat down. He still shouldn't have been playing, even at this point, because he has a lot of things to develop. I like that the game plan has changed more towards him running the ball more than him throwing the ball a whole bunch of times. But I don't know. I just feel like he's still costing us. You know what I mean? And on this one, I really do think there was a lot of dropped passes, and I'm not gonna lie about that. There were some drops, and that defense, our defense was getting ran through. But I just think that when we can have listen, we can go on about rookie quarterbacks and young quarterbacks for a long period of time, but Anthony Richardson might be a guy who 3 years from now is going to bust out. He just may not be an Indianapolis Colt at that point, and that's how I feel. But we'll see. We'll see about that. Um, the Chargers actually pulled one out on the road in Atlanta. I didn't see that one coming. I thought the Chargers were going to lose this game. Let's get into some stats. Kirk Cousins was 24 of 39, 245 yards, no touchdowns, and four picks. Mm. Bijan Robinson had 26 carries for 102 yards and a touchdown. Ray McLeod, he had four receptions for 95 yards, no touchdowns, and there were once again no passing touchdowns. Justin Herbert, he was 16 and 23 for 147 yards, no touchdowns, and no picks. Nothing special there. I'm not even telling you anything about the run game. Lad McConkey, he had nine receptions for 117 yards, and there were no passing touchdowns either. The next leading receiver was Quentin Johnson with two receptions for 12 yards. This just lets you know this is all Kirk Cousins' fault. This is not the first time this is all Kirk Cousins' fault. Yo, Kirk Cousins sometimes has games where you wonder like how he does that. And as a guy who has said I liked the Kirk Cousins signing, I have no idea how he has games like this. And I want to look at the NFL standings only because I want to look at the NFC South. And they were 2 weeks ago 2 games ahead of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and now they're tied. You start to question stuff. They're we and this is I say this is why the NFL is so interesting because you have conversations about who's good, who's bad. You see who beats who and when they beat who. Like 2 weeks ago, we were looking at the Falcons as an easy playoff team. Easy. This is a no question layup to talk about a different sport. Layup. You know what I mean? Like they're gonna be in the playoffs. And now I'll tell you this though, the NFC South's only gonna get one team in. So if they don't win their division, they're not gonna make the playoffs. So we'll see, Falcons. We'll see, Falcons. I'm not even gonna say too much time on you. But the Chargers, big ups to y'all, man. I talk a lot about the Chargers culture and the Chargers chargering, meaning they underperform when you need them to play big. They don't they just don't do what you need them to do. And now this season at least I can see Harbaugh has put them in the right direction. So good for them. Shout outs to them. The Commanders went crazy. They won 42-19, but I'm not even gonna go too much into the stats. I just want to talk about Jane Daniels. He was 25 of 30 for 206 yards, three touchdowns, one pick. Then they ran all through. Jeez Louise. Uh, Brian Robinson had 16 carries for 103 yards and a touchdown. And Chris Rodriguez, this is the first time I've said his name this on this podcast at all. He had 13 carries for 94 yards and a touchdown. And Jane Daniels had 34 yards but a touchdown. I don't have much to say there. I'm curious to hear or to see what the Commanders do down the stretch. I hold my comments on them. All right. And then the Steelers, they beat the Bengals 44-38. The Steelers are now 9-3 and the Bengals are 4-8. But to be honest with you, 44-38, that really wasn't that close of a game. But Joe Burrow, he was 28 of 38 for 309 yards, three touchdowns, and one pick. Um, Chase Brown led them in receiving with 12. Excuse me. Chase Brown led them in rushing, 12 carries for 70 yards and a touchdown. Jamar Chase led them in receiving with six receptions for 86 yards and a touchdown. And then T. Higgins also had 69 yards and a touchdown. And Andre Losivius, first time I'm saying his name on this podcast, he also had a touchdown. Okay, I see you, Andre. And then let's go to the Steelers. Russell Wilson, he was 29 of 38 for 414 yards, three touchdowns, and a pick. He balled out. Najee Harris had 75 yards rushing on 16 carries and a touchdown. George Pickens had three receptions for 74 yards and a touchdown. And Pat Freiermuth had six receptions for 68 yards and a touchdown. Oh, and Calvin Austin, the third, he had two receptions, one of which was a touchdown. Um, Let me start with this. The Bengals have failed Joe Burrow once again. It's going to be. I don't need another storyline for the Cincinnati Bengals. For Joe Burrow to have the year that he's having, and they're 4-8, shows how inept that organization is. It shows they they're not able to get so much other than Joe Burrow correct that they might have to start over, and that's a bad thing. That's gonna be a bad thing. I've said, and I've been called crazy a couple times. I would be trading T. Higgins, and I would be trading Jamar Chase, and I would be trying to fill out this roster because having great wide receivers and no offensive line and holes on your defense, it's going to be a problem. You know what I mean? And I think Joe Burrow is definitely great enough that he doesn't need not one but two number one wide receivers on his roster. If I'm Cincinnati, I'm moving on from both of them wide receivers this offseason. And I'm going to surround Joe Burrow with more talent in other places. The Steelers. Any game, let me just say this like this. Let me say it just like this. For the Steelers, any game that Russell Wilson passes for 400 yards and three touchdowns and has less than two picks, they're going to win 100% of those games. Let me say that again. Every single game, Russell Wilson throws for 400 yards and they have three touchdowns and less than two picks, they're going to win 100% of those games. I don't care who it is. That's your recipe for an upset, for me being wrong about the Chiefs. Anything. That's what it looks like. Because if Russell Wilson can go up against a guy like Joe Burrow, a guy like um a guy like Josh Allen, a guy like Patrick Mahomes, and he's not the problem, and he's a part of the solution, and the quarterback on the other side is not playing better than him. And that's what he just did against Joe Burrow. Also, just named you guys the top four quarterbacks in the NFL. Number five would be Lamar Jackson. Every time that he's able to not be the problem in those scenarios, um, the Steelers would you'd be looking at your Super Bowl champion, just like that, just like that. So it's very, very, very interesting. It's very nice to watch the Steelers do what it is that they're doing right now. Um, okay. Just keeping you guys updated on the Broncos and Browns game. It looks as though the Broncos kicked the field goal, and now they're up by 2 points. They're up 34 to 32. We'll keep you guys updated on that. So Vikings Cardinals. The Vikings beat the Cardinals 23 to 22 in a very exciting game. This was a very good game actually. Kyler Murray was 31 to 45 for 260 yards, one touchdown, two picks. James Conner, he had 17 carries for 68 yards. There was no rushing touchdowns. Trey McBride, he had 12 receptions for 96 yards. Shout out to Trey. And Marvin Harrison Jr. had 5 receptions for 60 yards and a touchdown. Sam Darnold, and then we're talking about the Vikings now. Sam Darnold, he was 21 of 31 for 235 yards, two touchdowns, no picks. Yep, we're not talking about the rushing. Justin Jefferson, he had 7 receptions for 99 yards, no touchdowns. Um, Johnny Mutt, he had 2 receptions for 22 yards, but one of which was a touchdown. Aaron Jones had 6 yards receiving, but one of them was a touchdown. I'm very impressed with Sam Darnold this year, guys. So it's funny. I had a conversation, or we can call it an argument, but we were having a football discussion about quarterbacks and salaries and what to do with quarterbacks. And Sam Darnold is making a very good case for what I am saying. If you feel as though Sam Darnold is not an NFL talent, you're wrong. When Sam Darnold was drafted to the Jets, he was not able to do what the Jets were asking him to do. And I've made this point about Anthony Richardson and Caleb Williams and Bryce Young. And you know what I mean? A lot of these young quarterbacks. You can't ask a young quarterback to save you. You have to protect them if he's going to play. If he's going to play, you have to have a defense and offensive line and a running game that really protects them and allows them to make easy decisions, and it can really hide the things that they aren't good at. You're either going to do that or they can't play right away. Okay? And that makes them a project quarterback. When I say project, I mean they are a project. Like, you don't know what they're going to be. Like, we have to see. And if they're a vet, you can't draft a project quarterback with the top five picks. And Sam Darnold was drafted with the top five picks, and he had a lot of expectations on what he now has to be. And they looked at him and said, "You either be great or we're going to get rid of you." And he wasn't ready to be great. But, in his like fifth season, he took the Vikings to 10-2. You know what I mean? Like, he's taken the Vikings to 10-2, and this is a remarkable year for Sam Darnold and the Minnesota Vikings. Uh, and it's almost going under the radar because the Lions are 11-1, and the Packers are only one game behind them. And I think we're almost forgetting that the Vikings are one game better than the Packers. I'm not saying that they're going to win a Super Bowl. I'm not saying they're going to the NFC Championship game. What I'm saying is, listen, guys, if you're gonna draft this quarterback in your top five picks, you need to know that he's going to be great, and you need to know that he's somebody you can rely on early. Because if you can't, then you need to take the situation like Russell Wilson was when he was a rookie, when he was young. Seattle said, "Let this defense and this running game take us to where we need to go." Like, I don't think it's that complicated, but and Jamal, I hope you listen to this. Jamal said, who's one of the guests that come on all the time, my brother. He said the NFL doesn't invest into bringing the quarterback up to speed. They don't invest much, and they invest something. I'm not saying they don't invest anything. They invest something. They don't invest enough to bring a quarterback and get them from level here to be up here. They don't. That's not what they do. They say you either are that or you're not. And I think that's a shame because if you look at Sam Darnold, like I'm looking at him right now, he's clearly able to be an NFL starting quarterback, and no one knew how to be patient, protect, and guide him through that process. And that, I don't think that's a fault on him. I think that's a fault on the team that drafted him, in my opinion. All right, what we got here? All right, so the 49ers, they lost to the Bills. The Bills beat up on the 49ers. It was 35 to 10. Brock Purdy was 11 of 18 for 94 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. That's the guy y'all keep trying to tell me he needs to get paid all this money. And I keep trying to tell you see when a guy looks good because of the talent around him, it's crazy what happens when some injuries happen. You need him to be better than that. He's not. And that's not a problem with Brock Purdy. I'm just saying he's a guy with a low ceiling. That's not top of the league money. Jordan Mason had 13 carries for 78 yards, but he was also lost for the season. Christian McCaffrey, he had seven carries for 53 yards. He might also be lost for the season. Isaac Guerendo, he had four carries for 19 yards and a touchdown. Juwan Jennings had three receptions for 56 yards. Not even Debo. I'll say it. Debo had four receptions for 20 yards. Josh Allen was 13 to 17 for 148 yards, two touchdowns, no picks. James Cook had 14 carries for 107 yards and one touchdown. Ray Davis had 11 carries for 63 yards and a touchdown. Josh Allen also had a rushing touchdown. Dawson Knox had two receptions for 56 yards, and the rest of it we're not even going to talk about. Guys, the Buffalo Bills have restructured their whole roster, and now they're a different team. They're not the throw for 400 yards and beat you, and Josh Allen does everything team, which was exactly what you do with a guy like Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen's going to be your MVP. I've said that. The only reason I ever said Patrick Mahomes was the MVP at any point in time was because he was undefeated. If he's not losing and he's the reason why they're winning, well, he got to lose before we can have this conversation. But now that he's lost, oh yeah, I expect Josh Allen, and I predicted that. Josh Allen was the MVP. I said that in August. Josh Allen's gonna be the MVP of this league. People were expecting a fall off that is not going to be there. You know what I mean? Will they win the Super Bowl? Will they beat Kansas City? These are the questions that they have. You know, um, sometimes Josh Allen he plays up and down, up and down, up and down, big numbers and small. Then he shrinks. Then big numbers, then he shrinks. Then big numbers, then he shrinks. Sometimes all of that happens, and that's here nor there. He just hasn't had many games this year where he hasn't been on point. I'm about to say something, guys. This is the first time I'm saying this. The 49ers are done. I'm done with the 49ers for this year. They're not going to make the playoffs. There's going to be a new NFC West champion. The 49ers are done, and that sounds crazy to say. And I feel weird saying it. But the truth is the truth, you know? Okay. And that's that. So For the game of the week, and I said that last week. The game of the week this week was the Philadelphia Eagles and the Baltimore Ravens. The Eagles beat the Ravens 24-19. The Eagles are now 10-2. The Ravens are now 8-5. Lamar Jackson was 22 of 36 for 237 yards, two touchdowns, no picks. Derrick Henry was 19 carries for 82 yards. Lamar Jackson also had 8 carries for 79 yards. Zay Flowers had 3 receptions for 74 yards. No touchdowns. Mark Andrews had 6 receptions for 67 yards and a touchdown. Isaiah Likely had 38 yards and a touchdown. Jalen Hurts was 11 of 19, 118 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. Saquon Barkley had 23 carries for 107 yards and a touchdown. Jalen Hurts also had 29 yards and rushing for and a touchdown. And AJ Brown led them receiving with 65 receptions for 66 yards. He had no touchdowns, but Dallas Goedert had 35 yards and he had a touchdown. Remember what I told you? I'm going to talk about the Ravens first. Remember what I told you about Lamar? He had 36 attempts. That's not a Lamar Jackson game. That's not what you want Lamar Jackson to be doing. Throwing the ball 36 for 36 attempts is not what you want. You want him around that 28, 20 to 28 uh, attempts. And just like I said, Jalen Hurts only attempted to throw the ball 19 times and he won. I told you, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, they're the same guy. And Jordan Love. They're the same guy. You know what I mean? Just different degrees of excellence at different things that they can do. They're the same guy though. Because every time Lamar Jackson is throwing it for 36 times, damn near 40 times, this means that the rest of the team isn't playing like they wanted to play. So that's why I'm saying this game wasn't really as close as it seemed. You know, it's 24-19, but it was really a two-score game. I'm telling you, I watched it. As I told you guys, the Eagles, they're going to go to the Super Bowl. You're looking at a Chiefs Eagles Super Bowl. And I'm saying it loud. I'm going to keep saying it pretty much every week because you're going to hear me say it so many times that you're going to be like, I can't argue. He's been saying it for a long time and he's been consistently saying it. He didn't say it one time and hide from it. Your boy Reek didn't say it one time and hide from it. He told you time and time again. The Chiefs and the Eagles are going to the Super Bowl. And that's that. Okay, guys. So the Broncos have officially defeated the Cleveland Browns. They're 41-32. Fair. Fair. We wanted as a Colts fan, we wanted to see how this would go. But listen to this stat line. Now, if this isn't a Jameis Winston stat line, I don't know what is. Jameis Winston was 34 of 58. 34 of 58 for 497 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 3 picks. God damn, if that's not a Jameis Winston stat line, I don't know what is. Sheesh. Jerome Ford had 9 carries for 41 yards. There was no rushing touchdowns. Jerry Judy had 9 receptions for 235 yards and a touchdown. And that's his return to Denver. That's how you return home. David Njoku had 9 receptions for 52 yards and a touchdown. Elijah Moore had 8 receptions for 111 yards, but he had no touchdowns. And Nick Chubb had 24 yards receiving, but he had one receiving touchdown. Bo Nix was 18 and 35 for 294 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. Um, Jalen McLaughlin, he had 14 carries for 84 yards. That's what they led them with. Javante Williams, he led them. He had a receiving touchdown, a rushing touchdown, and Michael Burton had also had a rushing touchdown. Michael Mims or Marvin Mims, excuse me. Marvin Mims had 3 receptions for 105 yards and a touchdown. Cortland Sutton had 6 receptions for 102 yards. Jeez, this was a game. This was a really good game. This was a really good game. I'm not gonna get too much into it because well, it's over. But this was a good game, and it didn't really change anything for my Colts. So we ain't even getting into it. All right, let's get into to week 14 games. Week 14 games to watch. Ooh, Thursday. This might be the game of the week already. Packers Lions. Now, my question is, did they already play each other? Because I'm gonna be honest with you, division games, when you look at them, whatever happened the first time, oh, the Lions won the first one. Okay, I'm expecting. I'm picking the Packers with this one, and it's that simple. In division games, it always turns around. So Packers Lions. I'm going with the Packers. I'll go Falcons Vikings. Listen, the Falcons have to have this game, and this is the wrong opponent to need that game with. I think there's some real problems with Atlanta, and I expect them to lose in Minnesota. This is in Minnesota, right? Yep. In Minnesota, I expect them to lose. Yeah, all right, let's keep it going. Another good game. Cardinals Seahawks. Oh, they played 2 weeks ago. The Seahawks won 16-6. Um, I'm expecting the Cardinals to turn that around and come back and win this game. Make the NFC West even more interesting. And finally, we're going to talk about the Chargers and the Chiefs. Oh, my Colts got a bye this week. All right, well, at least we're going into a bye. Then we got the Chargers and the Chiefs. Sunday night. That's also going to be a really great game. So this week there's not a bunch of great games, but there's like 3 great games. The great thing about it, they're all at different times. You know, you got the Packers Lions. That's on Thursday. Then on Sunday at 4, you got the Seahawks Cardinals, and then Sunday night you have the Chargers and Chiefs. So we're gonna go. I'm rolling with the Chiefs on this one. Let's see, Chargers. Show me something. Show me something, Chargers, because you never do. You never do. So you gotta show me something. You gotta show me something, Chargers. All right, cool. Okay, so let's look at some NFL playoff standings. Let's look at that playoff picture. So as of right now in the AFC, the number 1 seed is the Chiefs at 11-1. The number 2 seed would be the Buffalo Bills at 10-2. The 3 seed would be the Steelers at 9-3. The number 4 seed would be the Texans at 8-5. The number 5 seed would be the Chargers at 8-4. Number 6 seed would be the Ravens at 8-5. Number 7 seed would be the Broncos at 8-5 as well. Oh, the Broncos are tied with the Ravens, although the Ravens beat them. I remember that. They had the same record as the Ravens. And then my Colts are next with at 6-7. In the NFC, the Lions would be the number 1 seed at 11-1. The Eagles would be the number 2 seed at 10-2. Seahawks would be the number 3 seed at a 7-5. The Falcons would be the 4 seed at 6-6. The Vikings would be the 5 seed at 10-2. The Packers would be the 6 seed at 9-3. The Commanders would be the 7 seed at 8-5. And then you have the Bucks at 6-6, and the Cardinals at 6-6, and the Rams at 6-6. and then the Niners at 5-7. But I think that's where the line closes. So it'll be interesting to keep. You gotta keep an eye on the Commanders. I want to see if they play anybody because depending on who they lose to, they got like one loss. Who they got? So the Commanders have the Saints, the Eagles, the Falcons, and the Cowboys. As of right now, it looks like they're only going to lose one game. So I think that's something you can give up. So okay, it's cool. Well, guys, I'm gonna save a lot of my opinions on what's gonna happen next for next week because a lot of things changed. You know, a lot of things changed this week depending on who won and who lost. So let's pump our brakes on that. Don't worry. Next week, not next week, we're gonna be back with a new guest that you can believe it. These last 3 weeks have been great, but I want to get back to bringing guests on. So, guys, check me out. Check out the full episodes on Spotify and YouTube, and then you could see the clips on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. We all over the place. And check out the Cause You Don't Know Football Facebook group. Guys, check on there. Send some comments. Type in Cause You Don't Know Football. Find us. See what's up with us. We're growing, man. This thing is going. It's getting pretty crazy, man. It's been great to watch this grow. With that said, guys, family, you know I love you. Let me throw the hoodie on this one for this. Family, you know I love you. But unfortunately, I got to tell you, cuz you don't know football. I'm your boy Reek. Like Martin said, I'm going to see you when I see you. Peace.